Hi everyone, my name is Steve Finlayson. Today we're going to be talking a little about GMOs, give you a little food for thought. So a little bit of background on GMOs. It has been a question a lot on the news and in the stores and stuff. It was basically, is genetic engineering of crops and livestock a good thing for humans? So first, let's take a look at a little bit about GMOs and why it is an essential issue. GMOs are basically organisms or plants, animals, any microbes whose genetic material or DNA has been altered in a way that does not normally occur naturally through evolution. Basically, they go through gene therapy or selective breeding, and currently the term for GMOs is called bioengineering or bioengineered products, is what they're labeling them for. It can go from modifying plants anywhere up to animals, anything like that, or some simple, like I said, is selective breeding. Changing genes in dogs is technically modifying their DNA. The future state for GMOs, basically, what it will, they will be a significant issue for us in 2050, as there will always be a need for better yield in crops or more development and livestock to feed the ever increasing of the world basic right now. Also, it's going to be crucial in the future to have the crops, animals to be able to resist evolving pests or diseases that may happen, as well as basically being able to stand the use of less chemicals, which in turn will in the future will help the environment to with the heat and warming, and as well as to help it so it can survive in droughts that will most likely happen, because we're ever going to need always going to need these for humans to be able to survive. So a little bit about the ethical side of GMOs. They fall under a utilitarian argument, or basically an ethical issue for GMOs. Um, the reason they fall under utilitarian is one, genetically modified crops have greater nutrients. Farmers can improve yields. They can use less crops. They use basically use of agrochemicals in the environment that are better for the environment, justify the creation, as well as the socioeconomic aspect, basically increasing the yields and the less cost for farmers through the manipulation of the DNA makes it a more sustainable resource. Therefore, also helps the cost for the consumers as well as farmers all across the board, distributors. That way, it helps feed more people. Um, that way, it's since it helps a majority and the most of people, it is morally correct and a benefit to society. Some of the pros you got for use GMOs is better yield of crops, such as some of these fields down here with the Roundup Ready GMO sugar beet versus the conventional sugar beet using conventional herbicides versus the glyphosate herbicide. You can definitely see a difference in the yield of the herbicides affecting the crops versus the glyphosate herbicide for the GMO product. You also have less disease in GMO products or blight, such as like this product that the JR Simplot produced to go against drought and black rot is what they call it. You can see the difference on this GMO potato. Here it's called the white russet potato, which is currently sold in stores and other dealers like QSRs or like McDonald's and stuff. You can see the difference here of the peeled potato is all white versus it has the rot and the bruising, as well as this picture here. Difference in the cuttings, because blight can go through fields, which this is blight does not be affected by blight, so you can have no loss of crops, which this is created by um, combining wild and conventional potatoes, which made it into a Burbank potato and eventually into the white russet potato. You also have less chemical use, such as pesticides or herbicides, that are being adopted as per this chart here. There's all sorts of crops such as like corn, cotton, soybeans that have the herbicide or insect resistance from back in 1996. They were maybe in the teens or single digits for percentage of planted acres in the U.S. versus in 2020 there were up to around 98 to close to 100% of farms adopted these crops to instead of seeds instead of the standard wild type seeds. Livestock also get healthier in the resistance to certain bacterias, and there's less impact on the environment, such as the less chemicals or drought-resistant crops and stuff. Some of the cons you get, though, is the bacterias that the livestock or the crops are can fight against. They're constantly evolving, so they're fighting the genetic modifications. So that in turn makes them costly to reproduce or to change because you're constantly having to modify them. And certain modifications can affect the qualities of life of animals, such as like the chicken that has the large breast that is not able to walk. So that chicken is modified or bred to have that feature, but now it doesn't have a good quality of life. You also lose the wild and natural genes that you might get in a lot of other crops or animals that is being bred out or genetically taken out to get the crop a lot better. So that's some of the cons there. So some of the actions we can take to influence GMOs in the better is, one, to purchase GMO labeled products or bioengineered labeled products at the stores. That'll in turn be basically voting with your dollar. You can also purchase the seeds for your garden or anything like that. Also, just have conversations about GMOs to talk to people about it and educate people about the misconceptions that they might understand, as we've learned that most people don't actually know what GMOs are. They just hear on the news that it's bad and don't understand it. And also, lastly, you can talk with your government representatives about GMOs, which in turn will get a feeling of what the government and they are doing about it and their stance on it. So yeah, there's a little bit about GMOs. If you have any questions, definitely send me a message, and here are my sources. Thank you, and have a great day.